Hello, so I am Isabelle Arvers. I've been an art and game curator for like 20 years. And to answer your questions, I wouldn't say that all art forms are interactive, but it's funny because I was just like interviewing a group of artists here in Nairobi, and they are like doing a lot of projects with the community, and it's all about interaction. And if we get back to art history, and if we think about the Dadaist, Surrealist, or the Fluxus movement, they were thinking that games and playful activities were the most subversive form of art. So, and then perhaps yes, actually, perhaps yes, everything needs to be interacted with. If you think about watching a movie, reading a book, it's hyper interactive. The content wouldn't exist if you wouldn't interact with. I don't know what you think, Lou.
Yes, I totally agree, and that's one of the things that we are actually discussing at the seminar we're teaching now with Laura Paravecino, an artist. What is really the meaning of interactive? It's not just about touching buttons and making something work. It's about the role of the public, of the spectator, right? So you could say that everything is interactive. As you said, when you're reading a book, you're completing that story. So in a way, it's an interactive. And the avant-garde were the ones that first began to really make the public and the audience kind of a protagonist in the act of the work of art, by involving them in the experience of making the art. And of course, video games are by definition interactive.
Yeah. Even once I got interviewed by Matteo for the website gamescenes.org, and I had this quite tricky opinion, saying that maybe games are not so much interactive. In the way you are like passively interacting with a program that was developed by someone, but which is not really letting you being proactive and a producer of content. But it was really like
yeah, it's a discussion of the meaning of interaction, right, and of the agency on how much power that really the gamer, the player has within the game. I mean, yes, he's choosing, but how much is one really chosen between what has already been chosen for us, for the creators? Yeah.
And to go further, perhaps the fact of hacking video games or creating glitches would be a way to get back to interactivity.
Totally. Yes. Thinking like that is not really art games, but the game art, the one that is really interactive, right? Because of the interpretation. I don't know. Are art games fundamentally different from other games? Fundamentally. Well, they are another kind of games, and they are a different kind of experience. I mean, they share the spirit of games, but I think they are aiming for a different goal, right? Whether it's an idea that it's different from the mainstream of the games, or it's the game dynamics, the game mechanics. In that sense, they are different. How do you feel?
That's funny because here in the exhibition Jibambe Natek, here in Nairobi, I am presenting two games. One is like Semblance, and it's like a platformer, but you can deform everything yourself. So we could say it's like a typical game because it has a genre and it's a platformer, blah, blah, blah. And the other one is more like an art game because apart from just wandering in a space, so the name is Trans Factory, and it was made by an artist in Kumasi in Ghana, and his background the fine arts, but I would agree with you. It's not fundamentally different, except that perhaps there is not like a specific goal or you don't get a reward. But still, I'm not so sure, because if your reward is just to get like some emotions, some feelings, it could also be seen as a reward. So
yes, and I think that art games doesn't want to be separate. I mean, they want to keep the essence of games. What they are saying is that they have another things, another stories, another narratives to show and to share. So yes, they are part of the same family. No?
Yeah, for me, totally as well. I think it comes more for a need to differentiate, types of games. But
Yeah.
oh, interesting question. I really like it.
Do you think game jams are close to performance? Yeah, I haven't thought that way, but really they are indeed.
Totally. When I was reading the question, I was also immediately thinking that we could perhaps even make a parallel with the temporary autonomous zones, where you put people that they perhaps don't know each other, and they have like a few amount of time to create all together, and it's kind of not magic, but you really don't know what can come out. And yeah, I really like this question for sure. Can be a performance.
And
Yes,
it's
totally.
and it has some limits, and it lasts for a certain period of time, and there are some rules that you have to comply to. Just totally, yes. It's a game within a game also.
And oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, Lua, but I was also thinking if you think about the fact that if you don't document a game jam, all the process is perhaps more interesting than maybe the result, and that would be very close to the idea of performance.
Yes.
You have to see it, to experience it, and it's going to be a real challenge to experience this online virtual
yes, I was thinking of that nowadays you are living a different kind of performance, and it is a kind of challenge, because originally the game jams were meant to be 48 hours and no sleeping, and that concept has changed, and it's now there are different kind of game jams. On the other hand, there's also kind of too many game jams maybe happening at the same time. Like everyone is now really excited about the game jams. But it's a good practice, and I like to think of that also as a performance and a community exercise. And a difference between traditional performance and game jams performance.
the difference.
Game jams aren't really thought as a performance, so it happens. The performance is born in
maybe
context, but the original performance was not. Okay, that could be, yeah. Yes, because in the original performance, you are performing the role that is set for by the artist, and now you're being you.
And
you are going for that?
I would agree. Yes.
Video games to be
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
How couldn't we consider video games not to be mass media? Now Yeah, the biggest entertainment industry in the world.
One of
So
the main
far away from
cultural industries.
music and cinema. Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's not much to discuss there. It's a definitely yes. And I think that also governments are starting to realize that this, right? I mean, some of them are more progressive than the others, but yes, there are a lot of economic and social factors. Can video
For
games?
sure, there are ways to manipulate people's minds, to influence our imagination, our imaginary. It's one of the first interaction to the world for many, many, many new generations. It's mega powerful.
Yes.
A
And
very,
they,
very serious.
sorry. I definitely think that they need to be studied separately and jointly, all things, as a mass media product within the entertainment medium, and also as an art expression, and also the impact that they have in other fields. I mean, that's why the game studies exist, and thankfully that's why they are being more and more important, and more people is joining them nowadays, starting to really think in a critical way and in a more proactive way about the impact and the possibilities of video games in different fields, not just entertainment.
Yeah, what I found interesting when I was in Mexico, I met some scholars, and what they told me is that before they used to have like only a game studies department, and now their department is more like a sociologist, anthropologist, geographers, politicians, I don't know, economists, all of them trying to study games, but from their different perspective. And I think it's also a very good way because, as you said, it's not separated from the rest of the world, because I would say that it's really like a reflection of our world. It's also a way to represent reality or not, but so it's also interesting to connect with other disciplines, and
Yeah.
and of course as a medium of art. I mean, not everybody agrees. Me, I always understood games as a form of art and as a medium, and but not so many people agree on that point. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
If we don't think that video games are art, I don't know.
yeah, your and then perhaps not all the games have this idea of being like a form of art, but
No.
me, I have no problem to consider every type of game form of art.
There are different ways of approaching a game as art. I mean, yeah, totally. Can a developer work its games only as a piece of entertainment? Sure, that's what the main industry, the mainstream industry does.
Even once I heard when I was like interviewing someone in, I think it was in Thailand, I met someone who told me that they were producing games where you don't put your brain, because it's a type of game that you can play when you are in the subway with one, you know. So even more than entertainment, just like
even more than
no brain.
More than yes. Yes,
and only a piece of art, that's for sure. That's for sure. But I also believe that code is art. You know, I always loved the software art, art code. I love code poetry, so for sure. Even not if you go till the idea of a game, but it's always very interesting if you are able to read code. Examples of art code or examples of what? Sorry.
I think of art games as art. Oh, there are a lot of examples of games. Well, we can go to the origins and start with Passage and Marriage as the first openings into this, and the works of Tale of Tales, and Daniel Benmergui and Laura Palavecino here in Argentina, Agustín Pérez Fernández. And I think that you have a pretty interesting list of examples to share with us, Isabel, because you are touring the world looking for art games.
But you know what? I was about to say that when I was in Argentina, I was quite amazed by the number of game developers and game designers who told me about art, about abstraction. And for me, it was really specific. I mean, it's the only country where I heard so much talking about art. Maybe it's because of your festival that has perhaps an influence on the way. Maybe it's the influence of Daniel, who I guess also influenced other game developers. But and then I was just before I was talking about Afran Nemakov and his game Thrones Factory, and he really presented as an art piece. And to go further on that direction, whenever I can, I try to present video games as artworks. For example, here I only present the two games with projections.
Okay.
Especially to change the way people perceive games.
Totally. I remember when we worked for your exhibition here, and yes, I agree. The way that you exhibit the games, the way that you scenify that you mount the exhibition says a lot and adds a lot to the experience, and it can totally change the meaning, and it's good, and it can be tricky.
And it's not because sometimes I heard that because you are like integrating games inside the gallery or inside the museum, it's a way to legitimize games as an art form. For me, not at all. It's not because you are like showing a game in a different context that it's for legitimation. Me, I again consider games as an art form, and it doesn't need to be in a museum to be and for example, if we think about France, France really started to consider video games when MoMA started to exhibit games in the design department. Before, they were like really considering it as only entertainment, and even worse. I don't want to be like rude, so I won't say more. But
yes, this is a discussion. Totally, I agree. We really think that games are art. We don't feel that they need that legitimization, but for the museums or for the art cultural circuit and institutions, they do need this kind of practice, and they need to organize the exhibition, and they need to have them validated by the important museums, and to have the curatorial text explaining and justifying why do games belong there. So I think that we will have to keep that for a while. We still need to defend them and to justify them belonging and entering into other places outside the entertainment world.
And also, pardon, please go on.
No, we were discussing this with Eurydice last year, and she said that she thinks, and I totally agree with her, Eurydice Cabañas from Arts Games, that games have more to offer to the art world than the art world to the games. And I totally agree.
Yes. And I always think about one art biennale that I saw in Berlin, where games were totally mixed with artworks. And it was not like, the art game section, and then you had the video section, and then you had paintings, and everything was mixed. And for me, it was one of the best examples of considering games as totally part of it, and there was no need of legitimation or I don't know what. And I hope there will be more and more and more and more exhibitions like that.
Yeah, it's what happened with the new media art, right? That it had to fight for a spot within the art circuit. and our game.
By the way, here in the Jibam Benatek exhibition, there are like 2 installations, plastic art installations, and people asking me, but what does it have to do with, because Jibam Benatek means have fun with technology in Swahili. And some people asking me, but what does it have to do with technology? And I said, actually, for me, it's very important because these installations are part of a VR experience that we present. So they are like the physical side of what you can see in the VR space. And I really like the mix. And also I am presenting a board game downstream, and I had the same question. Oh, but it's not tech. And I said, yeah, but it's a game, so you can have fun. And I don't know, the board and the paper, and we can see them also as technologies.
Totally, and jumping out of the screen. And I like that you mentioned the fact of including a board game, because it's really something that it's happening more and more. A lot of board games are coming out and starting to mix with the video games and these different kind of technologies, as you say. Yeah.
And also because they sometimes they are more open and more easy to access for some type of audiences. So if we get back to the first question and meaning interaction, sometimes it's very helpful and usual and helpful. Let's stay on that word, to have more traditional games.
Yeah. And the conditions of defeat and victory necessary for game experience, and does this idea change with art games? Are the conditions of defeat victory? I think that if we think in the traditional game industry, yes, they are part of the experience, and they are definitely blown away when we are thinking on the art experiences. How do you feel? I don't feel so convinced.
I mean, I will answer personally. It will be like really the my answer, not like I never enjoyed to be the best. I never enjoyed to be victorious, and I think that's why I started to curate alternative games or more artistic games, because I wanted other kind of experiences. So maybe the answer would be yes, that maybe it changes with art games, but
I mean, in a way, it's what you mentioned a couple of questions before, that it depends on what is the reward. If the reward is the emotion, so what is the victory, the feeling of joy when you finish the game. I think that
the
what
competition
happened with
with
the art game, sorry,
intelligence, I don't. Me too.
we both like to speak.
Please go ahead.
I think that what happens with art games is that they provide a wider variety of experiences and of emotions. I would say that that's the main difference between the traditional, the mainstream, and the art games. The kind of narrative and an experience, and well, also the interfaces, right? Because there is a lot of experimentation within the art world when it comes to controls and setups.
For the tips for artists who wants to make games, I might repeat myself, but I always mention the book by Anna Entropy, which is like comment on dit en anglais?
It's a must read.
That like push people, everybody to create games, because more there will be like diverse kind of people who make games. More we will have like diverse kind of games and diverse aesthetics. But the thing is that now, and I guess that game jams are also very good for that, is that thanks to that you can understand that you don't need to be only or just or absolutely a developer. If you want to participate and if you want to create a game, there is space for musicians, there is space for architects, there is space for I don't know, thinkers, philosophers, and a game is, if I can say, not always the product made by only one person. It's most of the time, not always, but most of the time, a collective artwork or a collective experience. So yeah, there is space for many different kind of disciplines.
Yes, and game jams are the ideal word to connect with other people. And also to join the local communities, I would suggest, like Fundab here and Women in Games. And start connecting with other people that are interested, reading, joining jams. And there are a lot of tools that are easy to learn and they don't require coding knowledge like Twine and Bitsy. So I would say that just start making your own games.
Also, yeah, that's true. And yeah, what should we say to conclude?
I think so.
Let's all make games.
Yeah. And play, of course, you have to play to start looking outside the mainstream and looking into itch.io and other platforms and asking about what's going on and looking into different proposals. I mean, following the work that Isabelle is doing and looking into the games that you're promoting and looking into the games that the alternative festivals are showing. That's a great source of inspiration.
Yeah, Game On,
Yeah.
Out of Text, what we used to present in our game demo. Because what I also like, coming back to the idea of game jam, is that, again, for me, it doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't have to be polished. You can totally. Many times I exhibited prototypes, and many times I exhibited like games that were like perhaps not the end product. You know, for example, Trans Factory is not finished. It's just one moment of this game, and that's totally fine. And the first time I started to exhibit this kind of projects, it was when I discovered anyway, I don't remember the name of the manifesto. Perhaps you can help me, Lou. But thanks to this manifesto, I discovered the Pirate Card. You know, this compilation of 1,000 games
No,
because
I didn't know
some developers. You don't know the Pirate Card? Actually, it was created in, I think it was in 2012 or 13, and because some developers, they didn't have the $90 to register at the GDC. I think it was GDC. Maybe I make a mistake.
Lost levels. You're talking about that.
Yes, and as they didn't have enough money, they decided to regroup and to create a compilation and to present the compilation. But what is great is that in this compilation, so first they were like only 300 games, and then they did it again the next year and the year after. I think and it ended like with having like 1,000 games. And when I discovered this Pirate Card, what I did is I exhibited it sorry, inside an art gallery, and you had like two computers really linked to video projectors, and people could select the game they wanted to see and to play with. But most of the games were not like totally like polished, and that day, one developer, he told me, "Wow, I'm doing this kind of games for I've been doing this kind of games for so many years, but I couldn't imagine that it could interest anyone and that it could be even exhibited. And that day I realized that we had to show that, yes,
you're
can
right.
be exhibited. It doesn't have to be like produced with millions and millions of dollars to, to be.
So make your games and go exhibit them.